So it's confirmed. England will face off against the co-hosts, Mexico, in the round of 16 at the ongoing 2026 World Cup. But this isn't the first time England have faced Mexico in the tournament. The first time was way back in 1966. You know the one, where Bobby belted the ball. England had started the 1966 World Cup with a frustrating 0-0 draw against Uruguay, and the team needed a serious shot in the arm. Bobby Charlton's screamer in the second group match against Mexico provided that boost to get England's tournament going. So, who lined up for England against the Mexicans that day? England's 1966 team is the stuff of legend, but I bet you'd struggle to name the whole starting lineup for this match. No prizes for guessing who was in goal. Gordon Banks. Of course it was. Banks was England's undisputed number one going into the tournament. Nobody else came close. By the time of the 1966 World Cup, he was already being spoken about in the same circles as the all-time great keepers. Against Mexico, his talents were rarely called upon. He had one of his easiest internationals, as England's solid defence snuffed out any potential threats. In fact, he only made one real save of note all game. He kept clean sheets throughout the group stage and was solid throughout England's World Cup win, but it was 4 years later that he properly entered World Cup folklore. That save against Paine in 1970 really cemented his legacy. He would go on to win the FIFA Goalkeeper of the Year award 6 times. He was still at Leicester when the tournament began, but he would soon sign for Stoke City, where he would become a club legend. Tragically, a car crash in 1972 would cost him the sight in his right eye, and his top-flight career. Yet he still returned to the game and played in the fledgling NASL with Fort Lauderdale Strikers. He passed away in 2019, at the age of 81, his funeral in Stoke-on-Trent attracting thousands of adoring fans. Right back. George Cohen. At right back, England had the ever-dependable George Cohen. He was Alf Ramsey's first-choice right back throughout the tournament, and he played every minute of England's historic win. In the Mexico game, he played his part in stopping the opposition creating anything of note, as well as providing the wide option in attack. Cohen's athleticism was key to Ramsey's system, where fullbacks had to provide the width for his wingless wonders. He spent his whole club career at Fulham, making over 400 appearances, and he remains the only Fulham player to win a World Cup winners' medal whilst at the club. He would be joined in the elite club of England World Cup winners by his son, Ben, who lifted the Rugby World Cup in 2003. To give you an idea of how good he was, George Best called him the finest fullback he'd ever faced. After his football career ended, he spent years battling cancer, a battle he would eventually win. He lived a long life, passing away in 2022, aged 83. Centre-back. Jack Charlton. In the centre of defence was the towering and intimidating figure of Jackie Charlton. Big Jack was certainly not a glamorous defender, but he was exactly what Ramsey needed. A true stopper. Strong, rugged, and very difficult to get past. He formed part of a Beauty and the Beast-style partnership with Bobby Moore, and played every minute of the tournament. Against Mexico, he did a solid job when called upon, which wasn't that often. Charlton went on to become one of Leeds United's greatest ever players, making 742 appearances for the Yorkshire club. After handing up his boots, he managed Middlesbrough and Sheffield Wednesday in the club game. But his crowning glory came in the dugout with the Republic of Ireland, taking them to 2 World Cups and turning them into a team that could test the very best. A true giant of the game, he died in 2020 after a long battle with lymphoma and dementia. Centre-back. Bobby Moore. England's captain and best ever defender provided the brains to Jack Charlton's brawn at the heart of defence. The embodiment of elegance and calmness under pressure, at 25, he became the youngest captain to win the World Cup. In the match against Mexico he was commanding and composed, and that was the standard he set throughout the tournament. Unquestionably one of the greatest defenders of his, or any era. For club, he captained West Ham for years, winning the FA Cup and the European Cup Winners' Cup. For England, people still sing about that tackle by Moore against Jorginho at the 1970 World Cup, and he would win over a century of caps. He was always a highly respected figure throughout his career, and a true gentleman. Moore passed away in 1993 after a short battle with cancer, a cause he would dedicate his last years to, establishing the Bobby Moore Fund alongside former teammate, George Cohen. He was just 51, and the tributes poured in from all over the football world. West Ham retired his number 6 shirt, and his statue now proudly stands outside the entrance to Wembley Stadium, honouring one of the game's true greats. Left back. Ray Wilson. On the left side of the defence was Ray Wilson, a real stalwart for the Three Lions. Regarded as one of the best fullbacks England has ever had, in 1966 he gave the team pace and energy on the left flank. The Wingless Wonders system depended on the attacking drive of Wilson to carry the team forward. An elder statesman in the side, he still played every minute. His club career took him from a long spell under Bill Shankly at Huddersfield Town to Everton, where he won the FA Cup just weeks before the World Cup tournament started. He later had short spells at Oldham and Bradford. After football, ever keen to stay out of the spotlight, his career took a bizarre pivot. He went into the funeral business with his father-in-law. He passed away in 2018 after suffering from Alzheimer's disease, a condition that affected many members of this iconic squad later in life. Right half. Nobby Stiles. In the engine room, Nobby Stiles was England's problem solver. Short-sighted, short-tempered, and short in stature, yet Alf Ramsey saw him as vital to the team. He needed him to be the destroyer, the steel in the middle of the park. He was ever present in the tournament and was a big reason England could play the way they did. Against Mexico he provided the defensive grit that allowed the team to quickly snuff out any danger. Later in the competition, his finest hour came when he was tasked with nullifying Eusebio in the semi-final, marking the Portuguese great out of the game. His reputation as a tough-tackling anti-footballer would follow him into history, but his peers recognized his brilliant footballing brain. He could read the game like a book, and was a tidy passer of the ball. For Manchester United he won league titles, the FA Cup, and the European Cup as part of a legendary side. Stiles later became a youth coach at United, having a big influence on the class of '92, instilling his grit and determination. He passed on in 2020 after a long illness. Before his death, he selflessly sold his medals to help support his family. Nobby dancing on the touchline, false teeth and trophy in hand, remains one of the most iconic images in English football. Centre half. Bobby Charlton. England's talisman in attack was the tireless Bobby Charlton. Officially listed as a halfback, his role was actually more like an attacking midfielder. Against Mexico, he scored perhaps one of England's most important goals in history. He received the ball just inside his own half, drove forward, and belted the ball into the top corner. It was one of the great England goals, and it lifted a huge weight off the team's shoulders. Charlton was a player who could do almost everything, a tour de force of energy, drive, stamina and skill. He was a huge part of the success at Manchester United, where he survived the Munich air disaster to later win the European Cup in a stellar career. He'd be associated with the club as an ambassador for the rest of his life. Charlton was truly one of the finest players England has ever produced. A Ballon d'Or and World Cup Golden Ball winner, and England's highest goalscorer for decades after he retired. Bobby Charlton remained active in football until being diagnosed with dementia later in life. He passed away in 2023, a true legend of the game, after a long illness. Left half. Martin Peters. Injecting youthful energy into this otherwise experienced squad was Martin Peters. The 22-year-old midfielder was a late addition to Ramsey's squad, but he took to his revolutionary system like a duck to water. Against Mexico, he was involved in the build-up to both goals. He helped set up Charlton's opener, and later he played a crucial part in the move that led to Roger Hunt's goal, to make it 2-0. His arrival changed the balance of the team. He was a modern midfielder who exploited the gaps created by the wingless formation to find space, traits that would earn him the nickname, the Ghost. He scored a fair few goals too, including one in the World Cup final. Peters went on to have a fine career at West Ham and then Tottenham, winning the Cup Winners' Cup and League Cups, and he became one of the most respected players of his generation. His post-football career was less exciting. He moved away from the game and worked for an insurance company. He passed away in 2019, aged 76, another victim of Alzheimer's disease. Right forward. Jimmy Greaves. With Geoff Hurst stealing the show in the World Cup final, it's easy to forget that Jimmy Greaves was England's main striker. He was widely tipped to bag the Golden Boot and lead England to glory. Unfortunately, it didn't go to plan. He started against Mexico and was involved in the second goal, but he couldn't find the net himself. In the final group game against France, before he could get on the scoresheet, a nasty injury forced him out of the tournament. Geoff Hurst stepped up, and the rest is history. Greaves was actually fit again for the final, but England stuck with Hurst, a decision that holds up well, with hindsight, but was controversial at the time. Jimmy Greaves' goals per game stats are nothing short of astonishing. On a per-game basis, he is one of the most prolific strikers of all time, including a record 6 hat-tricks for England. He still holds the record for English top-flight goals with 357, as well as being the youngest player to reach 100 league goals and winning a record 6 Golden Boots. Sadly, his life away from football was troubled. His retirement was marred by alcoholism and personal struggle, but he got sober and became a beloved television pundit on St. and Greavesy and a sports journalist. He passed away in 2021 after spending his final years incapacitated after a severe stroke in 2015. Centre forward, Roger Hunt. England's workhorse up front was Liverpool's Roger Hunt. He was the kind of striker who did the dirty work and still scored a ton of goals. Against Mexico, he made a real contribution to the win. He helped set up Charlton's goal and then found the net himself, reacting first to Jimmy Greaves' signature cross shot after it had been parried. He had a goal ruled out earlier in the match as well. He followed this up with a brace against France in the final group game. His overall work rate and movement were central to England's attacking threat throughout the tournament, and Hunt was another key player to play every minute of England's campaign. This irked some fans, who felt he was keeping starman Jimmy Greaves out of the team, but Alf Ramsey stuck to his guns. Hunt was a true Liverpool legend, spearheading their revival from the Ashes under Bill Shankly, and becoming one of the club's greatest ever goalscorers. He later played for Bolton, before turning away from the game and building a life outside football, helping to run his brother's business. He passed away in 2021, an FA Hall of Famer. Left forward, Terry Paine. Lastly, we have the most likely pointless answer in this lineup, Southampton's Terry Paine. Paine's tournament was bittersweet for him personally, despite the World Cup win. He was brought into the side for the Mexico match at outside left, replacing Man United's John Conley from the first game. He played well, but suffered an injury that kept him out for the rest of the competition. Tragically, it also ended his international career, with this being his final England appearance, aged just 27. At club level, he became Southampton's record appearance maker, enjoying a long, 18-season career. He later emigrated to South Africa, where he continued coaching football and became a popular journalist. His lasting legacy for his adopted country would be the role he played in landing them the 2010 World Cup. Like the other players who contributed in the tournament, but missed the final, he had to wait until 2009 to get his hands on his World Cup winner's medal. Paine is still living in South Africa, and is now one of the last surviving members of the 1966 World Cup winning side. England's win against Mexico was seen as a turning point. A team that had looked flat suddenly looked dangerous. It was the moment England found their rhythm and started to seriously play like a team that could win the whole thing, which they did. Let's hope England's game against Mexico at this World Cup has the same outcome. If you enjoyed this one, share it with someone who likes good old-fashioned football stories, and subscribe for more football history. Also, don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our latest videos. That's all for now, and I'll see you next time.